So finally, we get to the part where our login form will actually work. We're going to be using Firebase for the authentication part of it, and in order to add it, you first need to add the Firebase Auth package. So we can add that in. This gets added to our pubspec.yaml file. We run pub.get to bring all the dependencies, and that happens automatically through VS Code. So we should see we now have Firebase Core and Firebase Auth within our project. Now, our next thing is in the terminal, we want to run that flutter fire configure. So the Firebase project we're using is the official Twitter one. We're on all the platforms. Everything is configured and ready to go. And now we can go to our actual Firebase console. So this is where you can visually see what's going on within your Firebase project. We're going to add authentication. So in order to enable authentication, you pretty much just have to click Get Started here and then choose which provider. You can see you could have authentication with all these methods. For this one, we're just going to use email and password. Turn it on, click Save, and there we go. This is where we're going to see all the users once the users sign up, and all we're going to see here is their email. Basically, what Firebase Authentication does is it does everything related to login. And important things it does is it deals with the password management, it deals with managing the session, and everything like that. So you don't have to deal with encrypting the passwords or doing any crazy logic to make sure that your users are secure and that their information is secure. Firebase handles all of that for you. And they do that by providing simple functions that you could use within your application. So let's go ahead and implement those right now. We're going to start with our sign-in page. In order to use Firebase, we need to create a Firebase Auth instance. This is what gives you access to those Firebase functions. Now using this, we go to the button where we sign the user up. And before, we were literally just printing out what values they entered into each of the fields. But now we can go that extra step of using our authentication and signing in with email and password. So the email is going to be that text field, and password is going to be this text field. That's really all you need in order to be able to sign in, and Firebase just makes things so much easier. We're going to do an extra little step here. We're going to wrap this in a try and catch block. We're doing this because sometimes you can get an error with your email and password login. Maybe you get the wrong password or something. You want to be able to tell the user what that problem was. We're going to do that using a snack bar. So there's going to be a little message that pops up at the bottom telling you what the problem with your login was. In the build context lesson, we went over how to show a scaffold, even though not directly, but we need to access the scaffold messenger of this context, and we show a snack bar. Now that snack bar is going to have a text element with our error in string format. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to sign in. If there's any problem, it will be caught within this E object, and that E object will have an error, and we can display it to the user, let them know exactly what they did wrong. So let's give it a shot. Try to log in to my account. We'll try to log into my account, click login, and that's not what we want. This is an error within our actual code. This is the right error saying there's no user corresponding to the identifier, but it's happening in our code. Now, why is that? Because this is an asynchronous function, so we need to make sure to await this. Because now our code is just going through this loop, and it's continuing executing, and it's not waiting for anything wrong to happen here. When you wait for it, then you get the problem potentially, and then this catch block executes. So we add the await, we can try again, and there we go. There's no user corresponding to this identifier. User may have been deleted. And the reason we have that is because we haven't signed anybody up yet. there's nobody with this account associated within our Firebase authentication. If we go to this, you see there's still no users. We can refresh. There's no users here. We first need to sign up in order to be able to log in. So we're going to do a very similar thing within our sign up widget. We go to sign up. We're going to need a Firebase Auth instance as well. And here we did a very similar thing where we were just printing our email and password. Now we can actually create a user with an email and password. We can save this and then go sign up our user to use this Twitter. Click sign up. And nothing really happens. But if we refresh here, we will see our user was actually created. And this is their specific user identifier. But you see, we don't see any password, nothing. Firebase Authentication handles all the security related things. But why didn't our app change anything? That's because we didn't tell it to change anything. There's no functions here saying to change pages or go to the home screen or anything like that. In order to do that, we need to listen to our user state. If we click sign in or create user, we're going to have a changed state of user being signed in. When the user clicks sign in or create user account, Firebase tells us that they are actively signed in and gives us the current state of whether the user is signed in or not, whether they are authenticated. And we need to be listening to those changes. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to our main.dart, and right within our application, we're going to listen to any change with that. And to do it, we're going to use a stream builder. So stream builder listens to a stream, which in this case will be the authentication state coming from Firebase, and we're going to bring it into whatever screen needs to be based on that authentication state. So the stream we're going to listen to is Firebase Auth instance and auth state changes. Now this stream will return us a type of user. And we're going to check whether the snapshot has a user at all. If it has data, then that means there is a user authenticated and we can send them to the home screen. Now, we don't have a home screen defined here, so let's add a new file. We'll call it home.dart. Create a stateless widget here called home. We're going to just create a quick scaffold and an app bar that tells the user that this is the home screen. So we can save that, and then here we can return our home. So if we refresh this application, we'll see that we're automatically logged in because we were already signed up, and Firebase Auth state changes listens to that and knows that we were signed up, brings us to our home screen. Now, last part, we need to add a way to sign out. So here we're just going to add a text button at the top. Gonna make it say sign out. And when we press, we're going to do Firebase auth.instance.sign out. And cannot see the text because it's blue, so let's change it to white. Now when we click this, it should sign us out. Even though we're not telling it to change any pages or anything, in our main, it will listen that the auth state has changed and direct us to the sign-in page. So we click sign out, and there we go, right in the sign out page. And we can make sure that login works. We're able to click login, and it brings us back to our home screen. So finally, we have our actual login form working with Firebase Authentication. We're able to both log in, sign up, listen to the state of our authentication, bring us to the correct screen depending whether we're authenticated or not, and we're able to sign out. And within Firebase, you can see our user is here and it's loaded in, and authentication is fully working within our application.